Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day in this snow or ice, so wherever you are. I'm Karen Doyle, Operations Director of CTAM Europe. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar with our strategic partners, Wunderman Thompson. I'm pleased to introduce Emma Chu, who is Global Director at Wunderman Thompson Intelligence, and Andreas Gregoras, International Creative Strategist at Wunderman Thompson Benelux. Today's title is New Realities, and we'll look at the Metaverse and beyond. I'll leave it to Emma and Andreas to tell you more about it, of course. We're due to last around 45 minutes, which will include for a good Q&A session at the end. Please do get involved and post your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. As always, the recording of this presentation will be posted on the members only section of ctameurope.com. If you're not a current member, we'd love for you to join us, so please email info@ctameurope.com for more details on how to sign up. Members have access to 2 webinars a month, an annual symposium, which is happening live and in person in London at the end of January, and it's open to members and non-members this time, so please do join us. I'll send details in the next day or so about the symposium and also our flagship programme, which is our fabulous week-long programme at INSEAD. It's our executive management programme at INSEAD, and it's happening in March next year. So I will, and I must tell you, your details also will be shared with the speakers and Wunderman Thompson, and they may follow up with you. So enough from me. I'll take myself off screen now and turn the stage over to Emma and Andreas. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Karen. I'm very excited to be part of CTAM and to share this presentation with Andreas for us both to take everyone on a little journey into the metaverse. So what is a metaverse? The idea is in this presentation, you will have a very good understanding of what the metaverse is, how it can implicate our lives, and also some trends and tips into how you should be utilizing the metaverse and kind of lean into it. So just to give you a little bit more information about the upcoming presentation, the group that I work in, Wunderman Thompson Intelligence, we look at consumer trends and really dive into different marketplaces and what people are up to and how it can change the way industries and markets and brands operate. So we released 2 reports, one called Into the Metaverse and a follow-up called New Realities into the Metaverse and Beyond. Both reports include consumer data, learning more about people's behaviors when it comes to technology and also the metaverse. And we will be sharing some of that data points with you. So we will start with an introduction to the metaverse, followed by some trends and of course, steps to success. But before we dive into what the metaverse is, I often like to take a little recap on how things were before. So just a bit of a trip down memory lane. So this is an article from the Daily Mail back in December of 2000, where they said the internet may be just a passing fad as millions give up on it. And of course, that, as we know now, is something that feels so distant from us. But when the internet was first released in the 90s, there was a lot of critics. There were a lot of people questioning its promise, what it's going to do, whether people are actually going to use it, is it going to become a thing? Like one of my strong memories of the internet is a lot of luxury brands refusing to be part of it. So refusing to have an e-commerce site because they thought it would make them less of a luxury brand. But again, look where we are now. So quite often I like to compare where we are now with the metaverse to us questioning what is the internet back in the 90s. And now in 2020, we're asking, what is the metaverse? Is it going to be something that takes off? Is it this thing that, you know, is controlled by Meta, Facebook? So the idea is we will be able to unravel a lot of that. Just to dive into some of the consumer perspective, what we've learned from our 2 surveys is the term metaverse has really picked up significantly. So when we first ran our interview in July of 2021, only 32% of global people from US, UK, and China had said they had heard of the term metaverse. Fast forward that to March of this year, and 74% had heard of it. And I'm sure if we ran this interview again, I'm sure that percentage will go up. However, what we've also learned is there's still a lack of clarity around it. So only 15% say they know what it is and it can explain it well to someone else. And 29% say they have explored the metaverse or a virtual world as well. In spite of that, the metaverse is still considered something very promising. So 74% say they think the metaverse is going to be the future, and 72% believe it's the next big thing. And when it comes to the economic side, a lot of big banks believe it's going to be $1 trillion opportunity. So I do realize 10 slides in, and I've still not explained exactly what the metaverse is. So here it is. There's going to be an iteration of the metaverse. So right now, as it stands currently, the metaverse exists as a series of virtual worlds where people can connect, socialize, be part of it. These are worlds that are three-dimensional, persistent. So whether you're in there or not, it's still continuing. So there's this sense of continuation of, whether it's digital flowers blooming, or, a street being built, whatever that might be. There's this sense of continuation. And in addition, it's reactive. So whatever you do in that world, the world will respond to you as well. So these are things, key components that make up the metaverse as we know it right now. In the future, the metaverse will be that where our digital and physical lives converge. So we'll see a lot more digital overlays in our physical environment. Right, enough from, oh no, wait. So there are a number of key components that are contributing to the metaverse. These include virtual worlds, which we'll be exploring a bit more later. Digital identity, so increasingly we are going to be creating avatars of ourselves to be part of these worlds. Alternative reality, so this is where all the different types of hardware or technology we're hearing about, such as AR, VR, mixed reality, they're all coming into play here. NFTs, so digital tokens, digital currencies, how we buy and exchange everything in these worlds. And the metaverse is said to be a core component to Web3, but we're not going to go into Web3 because that's another presentation in itself, but it's the idea that the next iteration of the internet will be decentralized. So as I mentioned before, there are key things that make up the metaverse, and keywords you'll probably be hearing quite a lot is that it's going to be something used every day. In fact, Gartner predicts that in 2026, 1 in 4 people will be spending at least 1 hour every day in the metaverse. So the way it's going to be part of our lives is going to be more persistent, more every day. And another key thing I think we like to talk about is that it's very creative as well. So it actually spurs creativity. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Andreas to help us dive into our first trend, which is virtual worlds.
Hello from my side as well. Basically, what we will try to do now is see how brands and they can use the metaverse in their own advantage, because the metaverse, like Emma said, it's such a vast topic, but it has many different ways it can come to life, right? So, and we can see that the digital spaces are offering a new repertoire of immersive touch points. So it creates a new way of experiencing, and that can be used from brands as well. But at the same time, because the metaverse is supposed to be something new from the people, for the people, basically, we can see that 82% of people believe that the metaverse is a place to socialize, while at the same time also that diversity should include and should be there, and brands should take a stance. And then the important thing is to understand really that the metaverse has many faces and many ways it can be, because it's a recursive technology, so brands can use the metaverse in their own advantage. So there are many different ways to exist. Like, for example, Tiger Street Food Festival, they made their own virtual world from scratch to replicate the exact physical experience. But then you can have other brands, for example, that do it more. Like, for example, here we see that it's used as a space to work. So it doesn't have just one phase, right? It can be like this. We can see from Horizon Labs it's used mainly to work. And then Wunderman Thompson, our agency, we've actually used the metaverse in a way to collaborate between different countries. So it's a common space that anyone can join any time. And then it's a first place that brings people together from all around the world to work at the same time, but also to socialize. And then the most important thing is the whole conversation, also how brands come to life, right? And then we see, for example, Volvo, they did at the same time, they launched the new product in real life, but they did the same thing in the metaverse. So the two worlds now are becoming, the physical and the virtual becoming one, and campaigns can also extend between the two worlds. Well, the thing that's really interesting that's coming to life, it's as we've seen lately, it's a new colors. Also, the new Pantone color of the year is also inspired by the metaverse. It's called the Meta color, and we see that it's starting to be a multi-sensory metaverse actually in the making. That different colors, unique patterns, and different ways of experiencing things, products. Even classic games are taking a spin-off now, right? Because the Sims could have been, we could say that it was the first actual virtual world, kind of like a Metaverse 101, and then it just got upgraded, right? But we can see that even Sims is just becoming a hub of people actually interacting with each other. But the important thing is also that it's interaction, like we said, but it's interaction means many times commerce and socializing, because many social aspects that we have in humanity, they're around commerce, right? So virtual worlds also give us the ability to rethink the way we do commerce and how it looks and feels. While at the same time, like Emma said, that it's just on the rise. 70% believe that the metaverse will be a place to shop, not just NFTs, but also like physical items that will be then transferred. So again, the two worlds are becoming one. But the most important thing for me is that there's an opportunity for brands to bring out a side of themselves that before was kind of did not fit the physical realm, let's say, but at the same time it represents their values, their overall. So it's a chance to showcase a unique side of themselves. Here we see like Gucci, Nike Land in Roblox. We have Walmart Land. And so we have different experiences. There is not one way. There is a template for this to happen. The brand and the creators they have to state what they want to do, and then it all comes to life in the way they want.
So it's quite exciting as we hear about these virtual worlds and how brands can really lean into creating their own and extending their brand identity into these three-dimensional virtual worlds. And as we hear more about, these brand expansions into the metaverse, we'll also start thinking about how will people be buying in the metaverse and what will that look like? So increasingly, we're hearing more and more about digital possessions. And the way we like to think about it at Wunderman Thompson is that it's bringing about a new type of ownership during this virtual, very digitized era. So again, I like to look at patterns. So if I look to the past, the way people wanted to consume was very physical, very material. So to have a sense of I'm splashing out on myself, perhaps I would buy a car, a watch, or something that was very physical. It was a sort of status symbol. It was something that felt like you owned it. And then millennials came along and said, you know what, we don't necessarily need to own anything. We just want to spend our money on experiences. Now, whether millennials regret that or not, that's another thing. Millennials, please type and let me know your thoughts. But increasingly, they shifted what ownership and what was important to them when it came to their wallets. So they wanted to spend on experiences. Now, when it comes to digital possessions, it's not a literal translation of something physical into something digital, and then you're purchasing the digital version. In fact, I often like to think of it as a combination of the two. So an experience and something physical translating to digital. So really think about what the experience is when you're purchasing a digital possession. Now, when it came to buying digital goods, in our survey, we asked people, this was back in July of last year. So still NFTs was fairly new. It was quite exclusive to the art world and certain fashion brands. So it's still fairly new. So when we asked people around the world, on average, how much would you be willing to pay for certain items, including a digital home, digital original artwork, and digital designer handbag? What surprised us from the survey that came back was people said they were willing to pay in the thousands. And of course, in the survey, you can of course say you don't want to pay a single penny. But that was not the case. So this showed us that there's clearly an appetite for people wanting to spend good amount of money on these digital items because they saw value in it. And what we're starting to see from a brand side also is that when we start creating and selling these digital items, it could be another way of thinking about how we're having brand visibility. So how you can be advertising yourself through these digital items that people are buying and snapping up as they would do in the physical world, but translating that into the digital world, but also, as I mentioned, adding that layer of experience alongside it. And when it comes to digital possession, it's not just fashion items and artwork that we're seeing, it's quite a mix of everything. So here you can see there's digital home, a car, makeup, and also a new way of thinking about what fashion and garments can look like in the digital space, because it doesn't have to be exclusively like how things are in the physical world. What's exciting about what you can do in the digital space is that you can really expand upon the creative elements and not be bound by these physical limitations. So suddenly you don't need to think about, I wonder where I have to manufacture that. Oh, I'm limited by gravity. So in these digital environments, you're not bound by that. So the type of experiences, the type of look and shape of whatever it could be, fashion, automobiles, what that is going to look and feel like in the metaverse is quite limitless. So I do think creativity is going to be up-leveled because of these digital spaces. But as we talk about digital possessions, of course, NFTs come to mind. And increasingly what we're noticing is the evolution of NFTs. It's more leaning into creating access and passes for people to engage with more like-minded people, or a community of people that they want to connect better with. So pictured here is a YSL beauty project that our Paris team worked on, and they allowed people to freely download an NFT from YSL, so that the idea is those who have that NFT, they can then have exclusive access to new content and gated content, also connect with a community of other people who also own the NFT, And in addition, they are having specific access to new launches, new releases before everyone else. So there is this sort of members only exclusivity when it comes to the NFT, what we're calling like the NFT VIP club. Another example we have here is a restaurant in New York called Fly Fish Club. And the trick here is that they don't exist right now. They are not open. So they launched the premise of Fly Fish Club earlier this year, and they were selling two types of NFTs. So it's a members only club and restaurant, where one NFT allows you to go to the restaurant and the bar, and then another NFT allows you to more exclusive access to the omasaki dining experience. So what's interesting here is they were selling these NFTs before the restaurant even opened. So the restaurant is opening next year, and they have already been selling and making money with these NFTs so that they can create the restaurant. So in my mind, there's a few things that comes into play here. One, this could be the new way of the world for startups, or launching new projects, or even testing to see if there's interest in it. Two, also the fact that with these NFTs, what's quite interesting is it's not once you have it, it's exclusively yours and that's it, full stop. Fly Fish Club are doing something quite unique where they're allowing people to lease their NFTs. So for example, if any one of us decides to pop over to New York and we really want to check out Fly Fish Club, but we don't want to buy a year-long membership, instead we could lease it from someone else for a week or a day, and perhaps that person who owns that NFT can eventually make their money back that way. So it's quite interesting to see where this can lead, but I think it opens a whole new conversation when it comes to non-fungible tokens. Here is the part where I think it's important to address, because as we're hearing more brands and companies and individuals participating and doing stuff in the metaverse, something we need to start thinking about is brand safety. How can we protect our brand in the metaverse? It's increasingly important to start thinking about trademarking in these specific virtual territories. So when you start thinking about these 3D environments, how people operating, engaging in it, make sure your brand is looked after in these spaces. And we're starting to see more companies, wherever they are participating in these spaces or not, they're already trademarking. So it's interesting for me, quite often when I work with brands connected to the metaverse, you would think, you know, the strategists and creatives are key people to have in a room, but increasingly it's more about having the legal team also part of the conversation, so that they can be there to ensure protection for your brand. So a number of brands here that you can see, from auto brands to fashion, to finance, to food and drink, and even health care. So all brands of all industries need to start thinking, how can they start protecting their brand identity in the metaverse? We're also at a point where, you know, it's not just about how we're operating in a metaverse. Increasingly, a lot of connections with what's happening in the physical world and in the digital world, it's merging together. So they're having consequences that ricochet to the next. Here is an example where there's a couple who got married in Decentraland, and it was officiated by Rose Law Group, as you can see pictured here. And it's something that is legally recognized in the physical world as well. So there are consequences to what you do in the virtual world that can help inform and connect to the physical world. So don't think of these as two different places or a place to escape to. Increasingly, they're going to blur together. And what I said early on is eventually when it comes to the metaverse, it's going to have the physical and virtual worlds converge. So they're going to come together. And when it comes to protection and safety, Interpol more recently have started training people in how to be key safety measures within metaverse spaces. So they're already thinking about how they can sort of ensure that people are thinking about their own physical safety. So not just exclusive to brands, but also how we can think about protecting ourselves and our avatars in the metaverse. And I think a great example that brands are still figuring this out is when a journalist was using Meta's VR Oculus headset, and there was one point where she felt she was not very physically uncomfortable, even though it was in a virtual environment. She personally felt very uncomfortable because she felt people were encroaching her space, and so she felt it felt like harassment. And so in response to that, Meta then created a safety boundary that people can opt in or out of. So people can only come to a certain distance from you in these virtual worlds. So we're starting to think about how we protect not only brands, but also people in the metaverse. And that's something important to have as you're thinking about entering these spaces. And now I'm going to hand back over to Andreas to take us to the next part of the conversation.
Thank you. Well, now I'm going to try to put into like normal steps the idea on how brands can actually come to life, and we're going to show a good example and a bad example and why. So approaching the metaverse, right? The first step. The first step is that like in every strategy, someone should, a brand or a company should identify their identity. It's important to understand who the brand wants to be in the metaverse, because you need to have a clear goal. And then comes number two, give value. So understanding why a brand wants to enter the metaverse can also answer step one, but it's really important, like, so you enter with a specific aim. As we said, the metaverse is still in the making, and it's never going to stop being in the making because it's just a world. So it's a recursive technology. So it's really important, and it's a unique thing to be able also it's a unique thing for brands to be able to mold something new, create something new. So there are many gaps because it needs to move forward. So, and brands can do that. And if you do that, then you become the hero. Because, every brand wants to be the hero, right? The enabler, we've been hearing it for many years now, like, I want to be the enabler. The metaverse is a chance for every brand to do this because the problems are there and you can be the solution and make the metaverse better by giving an actual valuable experience. But one thing that I wanna clarify, like Emma said, that they're not two separate worlds. The people who exist in real life in physical form, they're the ones who you see in virtual avatars. So your brand's North Star should not change for the metaverse, but extend and adjust for it. So it's another platform to exist, like TV, radio, the metaverse, because you're still dealing with real people. You're not dealing with avatars and numbers. These are people who are just in the form of a digital avatar. So I don't know if you guys seen it, but so I'm gonna start with a bad example, and I'm gonna explain how on the 5 steps the EU failed in almost all of them. I think a week ago the EU launched a campaign about they did this thing in the metaverse. They created their own virtual world that they tried to bring people together to talk about the whole idea of coming together and how we can make this happen, right? But now let's go and see how they tried to answer each one and why they failed, and they spent almost $500,000. So we see when they tried to identify their identity, the EU decided to be something on the metaverse that even in real life people avoid, right? A cool political person. no one can achieve this. Obama might have been the only one, and Macron, right? Like, but generally, politics and coolness and Gen Z do not go together. And then give value. They try to come closer to a target group, the Gen Zs, but that has no past experience with the brand. Like the Gen Zs are still like kind of not aware what the EU does. And so it was their first interaction, and it was really weird to go so intimate from the first touch, right? Identify the gap. Well, they did not identify a gap, to be honest. They just made a new virtual world and they tried to bring users there. So it was just another thing that just happened in the metaverse. So, and again, there was no clear aim for the event. It was yes to bring people together, but was it to discuss something? Not really. It was just like to hang out and have music. Did they achieve to be them? Like to keep their North Star? Well, not really, because the EU is not meant to be cool. The EU is supposed to be a political mindset, right? So it created it seemed like a schizophrenic brand, because the EU in real life it's something specific, and then the metaverse it tried to be something cool. So the brand was not true to itself. Now let's go see a good example. A really good example was ICSC and in Fortnite. Fortnite is a game, but it's a part of the metaverse. And what they did, in gonna summarize it, what they did, basically, they created the whole game revolves around the idea of shooting and killing people, right? That's how you win. It's like Call of Duty, like all these famous games. So ICSC saw a way in by creating another format of the game where you can become first if you save people. So and they made this new update, let's so call it. Identify your identity. ICSC had a clear aim to be the same brand, to have the same brand identity as in real life, but in a way that relates and fits the game. Then give value. They were able to raise awareness to Gen Z in the language they speak. So they went and found them actually where they are. They didn't ask them to come somewhere else. They went straight to Fortnite. And then identify the gap by upgrading the game, a new exciting challenge for the gamers. Brought more engagement because this was a new format, so it was exciting. Who's going to be the best at this so-called life run in Fortnite? It was a new challenge, so they tapped into the whole idea of the competition, right? Be the hero. A new experience came to life that challenged the norm of the game, because it was about Fortnite is all about killing, but now you can be good by saving people, and they did this by being true to themselves. So if we see the last point, which is like before, it's the idea of being you. ICSC stayed true to its Northern Star, but just adjusted its communication to fit a new touch point. So that's why it had such a big success, because it basically used the metaverse while making it better. So we can say that, like the CEO of Microsoft said, the metaverse is here, and it's not only transforming how we see the world, but how we participate in it. So it's a recursive technology that it's both ways. It's not just like, it's not the single bullet theory, right? Like we make it as we go.
Great, thank you very much. We've already have a couple of questions in the Q&A. So our emails are there. So obviously, if you want to reach out with any thoughts or further questions that might occur later on, do reach out to me and Andreas. We're happy to help and answer, or even debate, or have a fun conversation around this, because I think it's one of those things where everyone has a sort of stance on what it may be or how it will impact their lives. So we'd love to hear more about that. So the first question I have is from Laura, who is asking, how can brands with risk-averse finance departments or departments not set up to hold crypto get involved in metaverses like Decentraland? So Andreas, do you have any tips on how to get involved when you may have a stringent budget or you're just not set up to hold crypto?
Yeah, I think so. The key here is being creative. Like you can find different ways to make that happen, because well, crypto is also a part of it, and there are many new formats now that are coming to life, and many new startups that are trying to figure ways that you don't need to use crypto, for example, to enter a world, or the meta wallet, as they say. But I think there are many different things that come to life to be able to solve this answer.
Yeah, and I think, you know, beyond Decentraland, where you are made to buy a plot of virtual land, perhaps there are other, this actually leads a little bit into the next question that we have up. You can lean into existing games that have a lot of metaverse capabilities. So, you know, I often look at key trend changes, and it was because of the way people were gaming, and gaming in a way that became highly social in these specific environments, that now we're talking about the metaverse as we know it. So I do think games have a huge connection with engaging with people. And what's great with video games already is that they have an engaged audience that are already playing. So if you think about Fortnite, Roblox, you know, Minecraft, these types of games that you're hearing about already quite often, brands doing collaborations there, the lift can be quite low, so you can just have some sort of brand presence. You don't need to create an entirely new world. Equally, there are places where you can buy off-the-shelf virtual worlds, and then you can add your branding to it. And really, that's not a lot of financial investment. So we have had a number of demos from a lot of different startups and existing companies that are focused on creating different virtual worlds, whether it's for the workplace or whether it's for commerce reasons. They want to start opening up the channel of these metaverse virtual worlds for people to start, and brands to start utilizing in a way that's easy to adopt. So think of it like a web template, a website template. You will have similar templates for virtual worlds as well. And again, the financial investment is quite low. So you don't need to kind of open your wallet too wide or get into the crypto conversation. And then we have another question here from Pedro, saying that isn't the difference that Fortnite already operates on virtual/gaming spaces?
Well, if I may answer that, or try to answer it, it's just that so basically the key thing with Fortnite is it already exists, right? So you don't need to go and create another virtual world. So what ICSC did, for example, they went to a virtual world and they did what they did. But there are many brands, as we showed in the beginning, that go on and create their own virtual worlds. So that's another story. But I would say that the key there is like understanding also the users that exist in each virtual world. So that's why the Fortnite one was a good example, because yes, it already exists in the virtual realm, but the way it was done, the campaign, it talked to the people who were using that world. Because like, for example, Nikeland or Roblox, right? For example, Vans, what they did in Roblox, they made it fun in a way that speaks to the users of Roblox. The same with Nikeland and everything. So I would say, yes, you can go on a, like you're saying, yes, it already operates in the virtual realm, but again, they could have done something bad that doesn't speak to the users. So for me, the important aspect is actually being able, if you're gonna choose another virtual world to do your thing or campaign or whatever, it's think who are the users in that world, or then you can go and create your own virtual world if you want to start from scratch. But it's a choice, and I would say it's always important to look at the user.
So Andres, just if I may, for brands who want to, for their 2023 budget, start thinking about, what can we do to start participating in the metaverse? Are there any tips? And then you can also have a quick tips and sort of perhaps more long-term tips of what to do and what brands can do to be part of the metaverse.
Well, I would say that so for me, the metaverse is another touch point. So like we'd say, for example, every brand like Coca-Cola should exist in radio, TV, outdoors. Then I think the metaverse is becoming another touch point because it's another space that real human beings live. So I would really exist, and it's another touch point. So it's important. It's important to realize, like we say, oh, what we're doing a 360 campaign. And now in the last years, we put like all social media as an aspect of it. Of course, now it should become also, the metaverse is another aspect of it, of course, because it's another touch point, right? So that's the short term is exist, like find your selling point, right? Like find who you are and not be weird. Don't be a schizophrenic broad. So do what you do in real life, but do it in the metaverse, and choose a platform that fits you the most if you don't want to create your own. And later on, I would say because 80% almost of the users of metaverse, generally of the daily users of the metaverse, are Gen Zs, right? The kids who are playing, who are interacting, because that's how they learned. So basically, these people are your consumers for the next 30 years. So in 5 years, these people are going to have the money, are going to work, are going to be your brand ambassadors. So being in the metaverse now and creating events for them and being in front of their eyes, it's basically investing in the future. Because it's like many brands that when they invested on millennials, now they became the main brands for millennials, but not for boomers. Now it's a time for me, not for me, I would say that now it's a time to actually invest on your future consumers. So those are my two things, I would say. So
I agree. And quite often I like to think that, particularly Gen Alpha, their first touch point with a brand probably will be in a digital environment. So if your first touch point with someone is going to be in these digital environments, you need to show up in the right way. You need to represent yourself in a way that they can find engaging from an early point. And it may not be about selling something to them. It's just showing up and presenting yourself in a certain way. Another question I get quite a lot, and I think about a lot, and I'd love to hear your perspective as well, Andreas, is clients saying, how do you measure the success of your brand in the metaverse? Because I often say right now, just because the metaverse is in its early stages, it's in its infancy, we should not be measuring it in a way where it should be bringing dollars back. Great if it does also make money, but that right now isn't objective. It really is to learn and harness this new channel, this new way of communicating and engaging with the right community. So for me, it's about the people. And this is something we've been reiterating quite a lot. What's your perspective, Andreas, on how do you measure success in the metaverse?
Well, for me, that's a really good question, because I think it's not just for the metaverse, but it's a question generally for advertising and interacting with the. If it's not selling, then why does it exist? Because it's investing on brand love, which is something many times is intangible. I know many times clients do not like it, and I get it, because it doesn't speak money, but it does bring long-term money, and not just money, but it's like organic advertisement. People, when people love your brand and they relate with your brand and they see themselves in your brand, so they identify with the values, what you do, how you think, how you talk, it's much more important, because the sales will come. And I would say, for me, it's there was one theory that I learned. I remember many years ago, the mere exposure effect. So as much as you see something, you get used to it. It's the same thing that you listen to a song in the radio and you don't like it, and then after 3 days that you hear it the whole time, you're like, oh, I like this song. It's the same with brands being on every touch point and existing in the metaverse and doing stuff in the metaverse, then you are going into the conscious mind of the brain. That then when the rational thinking process will start about buying something or working even for a brand, it should be also seen as employer branding, because I would like to work in a brand that it's cool and that it understands the new people, also the new generation. And if I see that, like before it was, if this brand is in social media, then they're cool. They understand, the way the world works. And now it's also in the metaverse. So it's both employer branding, but it's building an idea. So it's building around your brand values and the way you are perceived. So for me, it's much more than just existing. But again, it's my opinion that for me, I really believe that brand love is above everything, because then that's how organic and natural advertisement comes to life.
What a wonderful note to end it on. I'm going to turn it back to Karen, but thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from the metaverse and beyond.
I certainly did.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Really fascinating and a little bit mind-blowing as well. But it was really good. Thank you. Thanks everyone for the questions. If you've got any more, you have Emma and Andreas's email from earlier, or you can email us on info@ctameurope.com. And this is the last one of the year. So thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions, send them over. And Emma, you can both reply to them anyway, can't you? Absolutely. So thank you very much. Wishing you both a very happy Christmas, and thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for joining us throughout the year, and then check out the calendar for next year's webinars, and I will send everybody the details about the symposium, because that's got a fabulous panel about the metaverse on there as well. So thank you both, very much appreciated for all your hard work on it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.